Good morning. Time for another live walk-in vlog. I thought today I'd go a little further afield, and if my knee will let me. Felt pretty good inside. Coming down the stairs, it doesn't feel so great, but I thought I'd walk all the way up to the Dewdney Avenue and walk along the warehouses there, and then back through downtown. So that's the plan. If you happen to be catching this live, that's what I'm doing right this minute. And if you do catch it live again, and you're on Facebook or YouTube, I can see any comments you leave. So let me know you're there. It's always nice to know there's somebody watching. Nice morning light. It's cooler today, -6, I think. Google at home said when I started out. I'll warm up quickly. It's not that cold. I'm wearing my hat and gloves again. The weather's looking kind of weird. It's going to be really warm, and then on Tuesday next week it's only supposed to be in the negative digits again, and then after that it goes back up to sort of normal plus this and that. So spring is definitely here, but it's a bit up and down around here in the spring. It'll be freezing every night for a long time to come, well into April. I've taken more than one picture in the back of a picture in the past of a Easter snowfall, so we're not out of the snow woods yet. All right, well, let's see. On the Kickstarter front, $10,351 last time I checked, which is 69% funded. Next big milestone will be 70, and that'll come at, let's think, 10,500. Any luck. Might not get there today, but maybe tomorrow. And that's ahead of the last Kickstarter a year ago when I was at 70% with 5 days left and then went on to fund. So there's always, or should be, a surge at the end as people realize they're almost out of time and kick in. Knee's still bothering me, but it gets better as I walk. I may have to stop this for a few days, give it a chance to improve a bit. I don't want to, though. It's become a habit I enjoy doing, and it gets me out walking and talking to myself, to anybody who's looking at me. But again, this day and age, people appear to be talking to themselves all the time. Now there's a stop sign, but it's not our traditional stopping stop sign, so I won't stop. I think we'll go over and actually walk up Albert. It's a bit noisier, but that would be the normal way to go here. I've never seen anybody else doing this in Regina. There may be somebody, so I don't know what people think. Oh, well, I won't be able to read any comments when I'm walking this way into the sun. So what else about the Kickstarter? Today's featured author is Garth Nix, New York Times bestseller, over 6 million books in print, translated into 42 languages. One of those. He's from Australia, and I met him at World Fantasy when it was in Toronto a few years ago, World Fantasy Convention. And then he graciously agreed to be a guest. He was very early in the second year, which means my interview with him actually, I was surprised because it doesn't seem that long ago. It was actually in November of 2019 when I talked to him. You remember those days before we had COVID? Not that I've had COVID. I've had the COVID vaccination. AstraZeneca. First shot. Had absolutely no reaction at all. Don't know when I get my second shot. Watch the media is what they told me, which, is quite what I'd like. Be at least a month, they said. Local Leopold's Tavern, one of our local pubs. Over here's my favorite gas station because it's the closest to the house. Will be noisier today. Traffic on all the roads I'm traveling. Well, actually, the quietest part will probably be downtown when I get down there. Cold enough to have to watch out for ice. Over here on the left is a building I know well. This is Class Act Performing Arts Studios, where my daughter danced for many years. This was the new studio. She was in 3 studios. The first one she was in burned down on a day when she was supposed to go for a tap solo rehearsal. And the tap teacher said, don't come. And we found out the studio had burned down. But they survived. They were a little further up the street here for a while. And then they got this place, and they're closed at the moment because of our current kind of hot spot that we're in Regina. So they decided to close the studio until after the Easter break, which was coming up anyway. And my daughter has been working there, so she's been laid off for a couple of weeks as a result of that. Local restaurant that I've often eaten in. At the moment they're not open because one of the things they've decided to shut down again is in-person dining. Now, I have my thoughts about lockdowns, but I'm not convinced by the data I see that they've done much except devastate local economies. But nobody asked me, and I'm not in charge. So I just have to go along with what is decided. And that's First Presbyterian, where we got married. In 1997. Variety of buildings over there, shops and restaurants and things. And down there in the corner, I walked by it the other day on the other side of the street, is the Pinney University Bookstore. Nice independent local bookstore that opened just at about the time this was kicking in. Oh, here's the cat cafe, but is there a cat? Oh, there is a cat. No, that's not a cat, that's just a cat bed. So the Pinney University Bookstore is moving down 13th to a new location. Be closer to me, and I can't wait till we can start having in-person book launches and things, because I'm sure I'll make good use of it for that. It was the first place in Canada, well, first place in the world, to have print copies of Shapers of Worlds, the first anthology that I kickstarted last year for sale. They have a lot of my books. The Shards of Excalibur series, which they picked up a lot of stock when Cathedral Books went out of business. And, everything Shadowpaw Press publishes, I make sure they have. So if you're in Regina looking for a bookstore, there's a big Chapters down at the south end of Albert. but the Penny University Bookstore, probably a better place to get my books than Chapters is. Viet Thai over here, one of our favorite local takeout places. An occasional eat-in. Again, only takeout now. That's Credit Union Central across the street there as the bus goes by. And then we have the Cathedral Social Hall, another nice local restaurant and pub. Good selection of beer here. You know, if that's the sort of thing that interests you. I ride in there sometimes. This probably will be a bit longer walk than some days. I'm trying to keep up a good pace. My knee is limbering up a little bit. Again, if you happen to be watching live, drop me a comment so I know you're there. If you're watching the recording, well, you can still drop a comment, but I won't see it live, so I will be home. Over there in that corner, there was supposed to be, for years and years, they were talking of building the tallest building in Saskatchewan on that corner. It's going to be a hotel and condominiums and auditorium, and it never happened. Long, long time ago, it was home to the Plains Hotel, an old hotel, bit of a run-down place as a hotel, but it had, you know, a restaurant in the bottom, and on top it had this weather vane thing which lit up and was supposed to give you a, you know, show the forecast. And I can remember watching commercials for that when I was a kid in Weyburn. There's some guy who was out in the prairie and he saw that as a landmark. Oh, then you'd have to press the button. So crossing Victoria, which we've walked along a couple of times. There it is. I'm gonna walk further today. I'll cross the street if given the opportunity, otherwise I'll stay on this side. Okay, this is New Territory. I haven't walked up here yet. You can see City Hall over there, the tall building. Tallish. Tall for Regina. Here, say, used to watching the Walking Commuter in New York, who was the inspiration for this for me. There's our dry cleaners, Greg's. These buildings will seem, it's like, where's the city? I always mention him, Walking Commuter. If you want to walk around Manhattan, he's your guy. He seems to be on, I don't know, a couple hours in the morning, a couple of hours in the evening. He's always on. But he has enough followers that he's monetized it. And, you know, he'll be walking along and, oh, thank you for the super chat. $50 super chat. All that sort of thing. I think, I haven't looked into it too closely, I think you have to have 1,000 subscribers before you can even begin to do anything like that. And last time I checked, I had 48, so. Here's the oldest building, I think, in Regina over there, the little church you can see, St. Paul's Cathedral. All right, which will make the most sense here? Probably this way. I'll go across. And then I'm going north again. I have to cross Albert at some point, so I'll do it now. And there we go. If you want a passport, you get it in there. Much use for those right now. picking up, I guess. Up here on this next corner, there used to be a movie theater. I went to see, I remember seeing the re-release of Star Wars when they had first added in the unnecessary new CGI bits. And so it was around then. But we don't have a downtown movie theater now. They've all moved out further to the peripheries. So I can't walk to the movies. Not without planning, like 2 hours ahead and setting out, which I wouldn't want to do. And it was replaced with this office building here, which is pretty new. Again, if you happen to be live, watching this live, leave me a comment and I'll know you're there. These things are definitely getting views once up on YouTube, at least a few. And yesterday I found a good plug-in that let me put something on the my website, which will always show the latest upload off of my channel. So anybody interested can come along and find it on my looking down there. That's the SGI building, the gold one. SGI is Saskatchewan Government Insurance. Coming up to the railroad tracks and the underpass over them, the overpass over the road, underpass under the railroad tracks. Probably won't make this light. We'll see. Be nice because it's a long wait otherwise. Well, I think we're going to get it. As long as the guy trying to turn left over there notices I'm here. Back into the sun, into downtown. We'll be walking back through there when I come back from Dudney. Now we'll go under the railroad bridge. They have sometimes called these subways, these underpasses, which confused us a little bit when we first moved to Saskatchewan, and they were talking about the Winnipeg Street subway. But Regina's not that big. It has subways? But no, this is a subway. Also a graffiti collection zone. Not too bad at the moment, but there's some. Stuff gets cleared up and it comes back. I've never understood why people do graffiti, but sure, I'm just not a hep cat or whatever the current slang might be. It's pretty sure it's not that. When I mentioned that do it with Class Act Studios moved after the fire, they were actually building over here that we're coming up on, not the first one with the long white awning, but the one next to it. It says Dancer's Den. There's a dance store in there, and they were upstairs from that, which was handy for buying tights and things, brake shoes. Parking was a pain. It's not really that much better than the new place. You have to park on the street to let people off, and there's certain times of the day when you'll get a ticket for that. Yeah, this was originally built as a superstore, and then it became, what do I call it? City Crossing, something like that. It has a lot of various offices in there and Starbucks. There's Dancer's Den over there where the studio used to be. I guess I haven't mentioned where I was on the Tangled Stars. It's moving. I don't know why it's so slow for me, but pretty slow. But I got another, I don't know, a couple of thousand words yesterday. Hopefully I'll do more today. I keep thinking I'll do 5 in a day, and part of it's the Kickstarter. It takes a lot more time than you might think. Oh, there's a question. This is Regina, which is the capital city of the province of Saskatchewan, and the country is Canada. So, wherever you're watching from, that's where I am. There's a lot of these live walks around the world. We've seen one in Seoul, Korea. I know there's one, yeah, there's more than one. Big cities will have multiple ones. Oh. Well, I'm not surprised. Unless you've been here, you'd be unlikely to know Regina. Comment was, I don't know Regina. Well, you keep following me and you'll get to know a portion of it anyway, the portion I can walk to. At some point, I'd actually love to go out into small town Saskatchewan and walk around some of the small towns. I doubt anybody else is doing that. And especially down to Weyburn where I grew up. Oh, somebody else is there. Oh, hi, Callie. We'll go down the other side because I don't think the sidewalk extends all the way down here past the train tracks yet. So we'll cross Dudney here. There's a McDonald's. There's always a McDonald's. Oh, changed just as I pressed it. There's the police. I won't point the camera at them. All right, down Dudney here, back into the sun. So I may not be able to see comments now. I know there has been another, but I don't think I'll be able to read it till I'm not facing into the sun anymore. Between the sun and my own aging eyes, it's always a bit iffy if I can read comments or not. Right now, the screen's almost blank for me with the sun in my eyes, are almost black. That hotel over there is a fairly recent addition. And there's a keg next to it, so those are fairly recent. This used to all just be rail yards. And we will cross the train tracks up here. The train tracks also mark pretty much, it's kind of Lorne Street train tracks on this side where the tornado came through in 1912 that killed 20-some people and devastated the downtown. Is it on Canada Day? No, it wasn't quite on Canada Day. It was in the summer. They had the centennial of it in 1912. Hey, we'll take off my hat. I'm starting to sweat. And I got to play the mayor of Regina from that time, who was Scottish, so I had to put on the Scottish accent. And I kind of emceed some special events. And the nicest thing was, at the time when it struck, they rang the church bells, and I read out the names of all of the victims of the tornado. I came right through downtown. Came over Wascana Lake and kept coming this way. And basically came along the train track here from downtown. and then back up that way. This building here, I did a walking tour in this area once, and if I remember right, well, this building was damaged but not destroyed. I think it used to have another story, or else they added a story after that. I don't remember which. A bit of a view of our skyline, such as it is over there in this direction. My wife works, when she's in the office, in that building with the golden windows there. That's the Saskatchewan building. She's a telecommunications engineer. And that's our provincial telephone telecommunications company. Brewed Awakening, a coffee shop I've written in more than once. I'm slowing down a bit. I should pick up the pace. So this is called the Warehouse District. So a lot of these old brick buildings, that's what they were at one point. There was a rail line that ran in just behind these buildings for delivering, goods. It's long gone, but it was just past the buildings there. This was when Saskatchewan was booming, the early part of the 20th century. And all the settlers were flooding in. And of course, Regina was where the railroad came, so the settlers came here, and they'd buy their plows and whatever, and then head out to their homesteads. So the city was really booming, and they thought the province was going to, like Regina, be the size of Toronto eventually, and didn't work out. There was a bust, and then there was the First World War, and then there was the Depression, and the population actually dropped from its peak. It was up to around 1 million in the early part of the 20th century for the whole province. And it dropped, I don't know, close to half that, I think. And now we're over 1 million again, 1.1, 1.2. But that's for the whole province, which is the size of Texas, basically. A little smaller. Regina itself, where we are walking right now, is around 200,000. Saskatoon's a bit bigger, maybe 225 or 250. There you go. Downtown Regina from Booney Avenue. Oh, I didn't even point out, that building we just walked by has the best brew pub in the world. What is the temperature, I was asked. I can see it when I turn that way. When I started, it was -6 Celsius, but it's up against the brick wall here especially. It's certainly much warmer than that with the sun shining. It wasn't supposed to go much above freezing today. Anyway, I started to say that building has the Canada's best brew pub in it, Bushwhackers, which was actually started by a physics professor from the University of Regina who just died recently. And we try local beers everywhere we go, and we never find anything we like more than the beer from Bushwhackers. And in a short story I just wrote called Casey's, which will be in an anthology called A Modern Deity's Guide to Surviving Humanity. My chosen deity was Ninkasi, who was the Sumerian goddess of beer. Another view downtown. And of course, it seemed logical to me that such a deity in the modern era would be running a brew pub, which is what she does. It's a very special brew pub, but its location is where Bushwhackers is. The interior, not so much, but the location was right there with Booney Avenue mentioned and the city downtown across the railroad tracks. That's coming out from Zombies Need Brains, LLC, which is the publisher. Joshua Palmatier, who runs that company, is a fellow DAW Books author. So I've met him several times at DAW events at various conventions. My publisher is DAW Books. That's capital D, capital A, capital W. my main publisher. I've been published by a lot of different publishers. Anyway, he started kickstarting anthologies a few years ago, has done it quite successfully, so I drew on his expertise quite a bit when I decided to take my own crack at it last year, and it worked. In the middle of doing that Kickstarter now. tinyurl.com/Shapers of Worlds 2, Arabic numeral 2. And just this morning we're at 69% funded of $15,000 with 12 and a half days to go. No, it'll be 13 days at noon today. It's another local brewery, Rebellion. They also make terrific beer. Not focused as much. There's a nice dining space back there, and we often eat there. And they do. It's big enough to do like jazz concerts and things. But Rebellion here also has great beer. Bushwhackers was the first. All right, we'll get up here, we'll cross Dudney and head downtown through another underpass or subway, what you like to call it. I can see there's another comment, but I can't see it till I change direction. Keep going out Dudney, and you come to, what do you come to first? The Territorial Building. That was the first government kind of capital building. And at one time, Regina here was the capital of the Northwest Territories with, looks like I have to wait, which meant that all of northern Canada was Northwestern Canada was governed from here. Yukon, British Columbia, Alberta, all of that. And the Territorial Building, where the council at the time met, is down Dudney. And then you come to Government House, which was where the Lieutenant Governor lived and governed from. And then you go further out, and you come to the Royal Canadian Mounted Police barracks and training grounds. So all the Mounties in Canada are trained here in Regina. Just give you a view back up Dudney there, where we just came. There are no people walking around. No, not in this part of Regina at this time of the day and under our current COVID conditions. Not a lot out. Downtown will probably be pretty empty too. That warehouse row, I mean, it's all stores and they're not even open yet, if they are going to open. And the restaurants aren't open, and their nightclubs and stuff along there are all closed this time of the day, and they're all closed to inside dining right now anyway, for the next couple of weeks at least. They have been open, but we've got an outbreak of, we've got the highest cases of COVID right now in the province. The variants of concern, as they say. Which always makes me think of the Rhodas of unusual size in The Princess Bride. There's actually a train going over our head right now, if you can hear it. There it is. One hopes it stays there. Not the most scenic little bit of Regina here. Again, anything that's covered and has a concrete wall is going to attract graffiti. There's lots of that along here. Dirt and trash. The whole city's dirty right now because the snow has just melted and it leaves behind a lot of dirt. And they haven't done street sweeping and stuff. Are getting loose. hope I don't have to stop to untie them. That's always awkward with this thing. Not untie them, tie them. They did put artwork up here though. Got to dress it up a little. This is actually a very old building over here, well over 100 years old. Nothing to look at, but it is an old building. It has our favorite Indian restaurant in it, Caraway. And it's uphill, climbing out of the underpass. So the next road up here is Saskatchewan Drive. We'll go down one more before we start zigzagging through downtown, I think. Or maybe I'll go along Saskatchewan Drive and cross at the next one. You get a view of the former train station. Not a train station anymore, it's a casino. Not doing any business recently. The building over there used to be our provincial bus company, but the government sold Saskatchewan Transportation Company. It was losing money hand over fist. I miss it though. I used to take the bus to Saskatoon sometimes, which was about a 2.5 hour trip. And on the bus, if you take the bus, you could work because they had Wi-Fi on the bus. There's the train station again. Oh, sorry, Casino Regina. There's a nice theater space in it where they did and will again shows, but because of the casino you have to be 19 to go to a show there, which was something that kept us from going for many years because our daughter has only turned 19 last year, and that kind of annoyed us, so we just decided, well, we'll teach them, we won't go at all. Have been to a couple of things there, but not as much as you might think with some of the fairly big name acts that'll come through sometimes. Train station again. Actually, the way back when I wrote a children's biography of probably Jaywalk, but we'll wait. I wrote a children's biography of Jimi Hendrix, and Eric Burdon, famously from the Animals, featured in that because he was the one who found Hendrix after he died. One of the ones, as I remember. And of course he was all part of that London and England 60s scene. And while I was writing that biography, he came to Casino Regina to play in the theater there. And I thought it would have been very funny, not funny, but it would have been interesting to talk to him and say, so back when you were, hanging out with Jimi Hendrix and the Beatles and all those guys in England, did you ever think you'd end up playing Casino Regina in Saskatchewan? Didn't get a chance to ask that. I think when I interviewed the Oak Ridge Boys, which I did for the newspaper, I did quite a bit of entertainment writing for a while until they quit using freelancers. So I interviewed some interesting people. I think they offered me a free ticket to the show, but I couldn't go. I enjoyed talking to those guys. They knew where my university was in Arkansas, Harding University. Who else? I talked to Weird Al Yankovic. Interviewed him. He was a nice guy to interview. Talked to Ben Heppner, famous opera singer, and others. I used to do theater reviews too for when I was still writing freelance for the newspaper. Of course, my main thing was a science column. I wrote a weekly science column that ran for more than 20 years in some places. And I was the weekly guest on CBC Saskatchewan, a weekly science guest for about 17 years. When Colin Gruer was the host primarily. That was a good gig. But the thing about being a freelancer is everything goes away eventually. So I've had gigs Like I hosted a TV show on the local Access Communications local community channel, a phone-in show about computers called Net Talk. Went on for a decade or more, and then it just ended. So you can't count on anything to last as a freelancer. Which is one reason, not really, but I always say it, that I married an engineer. I didn't really marry her because she had a steady job, but it certainly has helped from an income point of view on my side. If you're thinking of being a writer, don't go into it for the money. Even if you make some, it could go away at any time. Okay, so we're right downtown here. We'll go down this side. If you're still with me, anybody? This is downtown Regina now. Also pretty empty this time of day, these conditions. But anytime, if you're from a big city, you'd think it was pretty empty down here. School I went to where my dad taught, Western Christian College in Weyburn. They had a lot of students from Hong Kong, up to 10% some years, because they wanted to get into Canada. School needed the money, and it was a good school, so they would come. The first one that came flew into Regina and was quite horrified and couldn't figure out where the town was. Because where's the city? Well, I guess I've got the light, so I'll cross over here. Here's my bank, where I do most of my banking if I have to come in person. We're going to go down Hamilton here. Not named after Alexander Hamilton or the Broadway show. Some ice to watch out for. Pedestrian overpass, so you don't have to go outside in really cold weather. Coffee shops are open for takeaway. Colin O'Brien over there is buy a lot of clothes there. Nice men's shop. This used to be the newspaper building a long time ago, the Leader building. There's got various things in it now, including a theater space, a performance space called City Center. This is all new on this side. The buildings over here were torn down a few years ago and a new building put up. And then if this is a new, probably our newest skyscraper, if you want to call it that. Yes. I don't think even Canadians realize how few people live in Canada for the size of the landmass. Like I said, Saskatchewan's the size of Texas and has maybe 1 million people in it. The whole country is the largest country, second largest country in the world after Russia, and has about 35 million people in it, which is not much. Well, we'll go down this way now. Actually, could have zigged down Scar Street, but I didn't. And most of us are clustered pretty close to the US border. The further north you go, the emptier it gets. By the time you hit the Arctic, there's hardly anybody there at all. But there are people, and there's mines, forestry, that stuff. I think since we ended up here, we'll walk through Victoria Park over here. I did walk down Scar Street the first time I came downtown a few days ago. So Scar Street is a pedestrian mall on this side. That's what it looks like. Boy, if you think it's empty, yes, it's empty. Very, very empty. That's the Cornwall Center down at the end is kind of our big downtown mall. And that's a Joe Fafard sculpture that plays on the fact that this town was known as Pile of Bones because of all the buffalo bones piled here during those days. There's another Fafard cow. He was a very famous Canadian sculptor, and he worked in Pence. Lived in Regina, I think, but he worked in Pence, is where his foundry was, which is a small town. Got to visit it. The Mackenzie Art Gallery did a evening program where they took you to artist studios. So we went out to Pence and saw where he cast his bronzes, and we went to Vic Sikansky's, another famous local artist, saw how he works with his ceramics and various people like that. It was very interesting. This over here is a somewhat controversial city center, city plaza, I don't know what they call it. You can see those sticking up white things. They look like lightsabers at night when they light up. That's what I always think of. This is where the farmers market is, and the outdoor farmers market will start up here before long. City Hall again over there. So we're walking diagonally through Victoria Park. Hotel Saskatchewan over there, and the Sask Power Building all covered in scaffolding next to it. So the Hotel Saskatchewan there was the railway hotel. So you'd come into the train station just a few blocks away, and you'd come here to stay. Rumor had it that there was a tunnel from there to here, but I think it's just urban myth. This, of course, is the cenotaph, the First World War memorial, and other wars, but it started as the First World War memorial, as most towns in Canada have. And this is where the Remembrance Day ceremony is held every year on November 11th. But as you can see, it also includes other wars, including Afghanistan and Korea. Public library is over there on that corner. The low building, great building. And again, I mentioned the 1912 tornado. It came right down Lawrence Street up here, destroyed or heavily damaged the church on the corner, and just took out this whole street. And Bushwhackers, the brew pub I mentioned earlier, they have some pictures from the aftermath. My grandfather-in-law was here then. His name was Samson J. Goodfellow. And he was born in Scotland. And his mother, her husband had come to the States sometime earlier and died in an accident. She moved to Canada because she had relatives and brought the kids with them. They grew up in Toronto, but he came out here pretty early to Regina to work and then went back to Toronto for education, and that's where he enlisted and went on. And he wrote his First World War memoirs, or his memoirs up through the First World War. And I published them through Shadowpaw Press. I'm actually going to go down this side, even though the light's with me. But he was here during the 1912 tornado and talked about the house he was in was blown off its foundations. And that's the Balfour, nice apartment building, condos and apartments. We looked at a condo in there when we were looking for when we were getting married, and we really liked it, but there was no elevator and no indoor parking or outdoor park. Well, yeah, underground parking. And around here, it's It's really nice to have that underground parking. So we went with a newer place that had underground parking. But it's a nice building, and it looks really nice with the sun shining on it this morning, which is why I came down this side of the street. Look up there. The building next to it is nice too. It's called the Frontenac, and it has this kind of Spanish feel to it. I mentioned before that I wrote a book called Historic Walks of Regina and Moose Jaw. So a lot of these are in that. I know there's little bits that I remember. I've never been in there, but I've always liked the looks of it. This is actually the best time of the year to see it, because once the trees leaf out, a lot of these buildings get hidden behind the trees. I took most of the pictures that I took because I photographed every building I went to. I did that in the winter when there were no leaves, so that helped, but I was wading through deep snow on a couple of occasions. And I also did Moose Jaw, which would be another fun place to go and take a walk. Here's the Frontenac again. Came back. Saskatchewan Writers Guild used to be in here, but aren't anymore. My shoelaces are getting looser and looser, but I think I'll make it home. This is the Salvation Army here. Building on the other side of the street used to be where the Association of Professional Engineers and Geoscientists of Saskatchewan was located. And I was in it many times because I wrote their history for their centennial in 2005. But they now have a new building out on the edge of town, over in Harbor Landing it's called. Landing kind of works because the airport's just not too far away. I don't know why it's called harbor. We have no harbors, being completely landlocked. We have a marina. It's not exactly the same thing. How long has this walk been so far? 52 minutes. I thought it was going to be longer, so I'll still come in a little over an hour today, which is a little bit longer than yeah, still some ice to watch out for. The building on that corner, as I mentioned previously, I don't know why I keep saying that. It's not like I'm likely to have a lot of repeat customers here that have seen what I'm up to, probably 12 hours worth of these things so far, and that's just going to keep going up. But I always feel like I have to apologize for repeating myself. Anyway, was the downtown YMCA, built in the 50s, about the year I was born, and just before maybe. And it closed recently. It was already in financial trouble, and then COVID kind of did it in. And that was where I was going to do weights and that sort of thing. So I lost that. Lost it because of the pandemic, and then lost it because they closed. So I did it pretty steadily for 2 years, and now I'd be starting from scratch pretty much. But when things calm down again, there's a gym downtown I might be able to do something in. But at least I'm walking. Didn't do anything at all over the winter, so it's nice to be walking again. And having discovered that I could do this, where I walk and talk, have imaginary conversations with myself and occasionally somebody who pops in, as this morning a couple of people have. I find it motivates me to get out and walk every day. And that's good. I've lost a little weight since I started doing this, which is nice. We will zig again. That's Albert Street up there. Stay on the quieter street here. McIntyre, if you're following along on Google Maps. Apartment buildings. This whole section, I think they call it, I think Center Block is north of Victorian, the sort of downtown. I think this is called the transition area. The idea being that it's transitioning from single dwellings to offices and multi-dwelling units and that sort of thing. Don't know if anyone's still with me, but if you are, leave a comment and I'll know you're there. If you're watching this recorded, well, thanks for watching. However much of this you've watched. If you've gotten this far, you may have watched quite a bit. Or maybe you just popped in here because you like the look of a building that you saw. I don't know. It's a weird thing. It's like throwing your words into the ether and never knowing who's going to find them on the other end. But writing is like that too. When you write a book, you have no idea who's reading it. And you don't even know what they're seeing in your book, what they're getting out of it. It's both a solo activity, very solitary, and a collaborative activity, because the book that you create in your head, you then turn it into words, the images and dialogue and everything in your head. You turn it into words, put it on the page, and you hope that the reader will take those words and see something in their head that approximates what you saw in yours, but you don't actually know. And they could have an entirely different image. You may find different things in your book than you thought you put there. Prosperous city? Well, it depends on, that's a comment from YouTube. Prosperous city depends on how the overall economy is doing. Nobody's terribly prosperous right now. Saskatchewan hasn't done as badly as some. We're very dependent on things like oil prices, still a resource-based economy, agriculture. On the other hand, Regina is a government town, so a lot of people here work in crown corporations or in provincial government, a bit insulated from some of the economic fallout. Saskatchewan boomed for several years recently. Population was growing and things were looking quite prosperous. Don't know if I would say that right now or not. So we're back at Albert Street. It's always hard to know which road to cross on. This can be a long light. I thought it was close to changing, but I may be wrong about that. There's First Presbyterian again, the church where we got married. This is an old building over here that has some apartments in it, and also shops down on the lower level. 9, 8, 7. It is good exercise, and I think I'm making progress because I'm not as out of breath talking and walking at the same time as I was the first couple of times I did it. Worry about my knee though, it does bother me. I'm not ancient, but I'm not a spring chicken either. I'll be turning 62 in July. Waiting for that noisy truck to go by. So we walked down here before. On our way out, there's Bodega again, where I like to eat sometimes. Just a couple of blocks from home now. Again, going past the dance studio where my daughter danced for many years and now works part-time when it's open. Here's class act. It has this artwork on the side of the building of a dancer. I'm actually going to cut this off over here because I need to go get something in the gas station here, and I don't want to take the camera in. And it's all repeat from here anyway, from the beginning of the walk. So let's get over here by the Petro-Canada. And there, maybe I can get some Petro-Canada advertising dollars. Look back down at Albert Street again, and we'll call it quits here. So thanks very much for watching, whether live or watching the recording. I enjoyed the walk, and I hope you did too. And I'm doing this pretty much every day. You can subscribe to my YouTube channel. Bye for now.